What's going on, YouTube? So today, let's see here. Wanted to talk a little bit about what people need to understand about retro game collecting and probably possibly collecting in general. A big thing nowadays is we could just throw right off the bat is it is expensive. I think people starting to understand that a little bit, but it's still we still got to throw it out there. So what exactly does this mean? Well, if you want to get into retro game collecting and you don't have kind of a stable base yet, expect to spend a decent amount of money. Now, the consoles themselves aren't exactly too bad. Exactly like I say, I think for like Nintendo and stuff, you could pay anywhere from $60 to $80. Super Nintendo, $80, $100, something like that. So the consoles themselves aren't actually bad. It's the games themselves that you'll be surprised, and sometimes even just controllers. So what people need to understand really when you start retro game collecting nowadays is figure out exactly though what you want to collect first. Don't make the same mistake I made after a while. So my biggest mistake was I decided that I wanted to get every console to begin with, and then that way whenever I found games in the wild or anything like that, I could just dump money into them, build a huge collection basically with no rhyme or reason, just buying whatever, and I could technically play them because I have all the games already, or the consoles themselves, I mean. So that was the hugest mistake I made. So like I said, if you're going to get into retro game collecting, what you need to understand is, starting off, you need to figure out what the heck you're going to collect for, and you need to have some kind of goal in mind. Like I said, I didn't have a goal. I wanted to get an insane amount of collection. I just wanted to look cool on YouTube was another reason, which was a big mistake. Yeah, it didn't work out. The channel obviously did not do too well at the point that I was collecting for the wrong reason. So if you're going to let retro game collect, you're going to want to pick the right reasons to do it too. And like I said, the best way to do this is just to have a goal in mind. Did you love Nintendo growing up, the original NES? Did you love Super Nintendo growing up and you want to collect games that you had from there? Or do you just want to get a console that maybe you didn't grow up with? I personally had a Sega Genesis growing up, so for a while there I was actually enjoying getting some Super Nintendo games because I didn't have them, and it was kind of fun to have games that I didn't have, and I got to experience them for the first time. Now obviously you can do this with stuff like emulation and the Super Nintendo Classic and everything like that, so that's always an option too. So that was one thing I found out later on too, that it was ideal for me to download ROMs to check games out before I purchased them, because they were, let's face it, there's a bunch of duds in the world of gaming. As much as people love certain consoles and everything that goes with it, there is some duds. So it was a good idea to personally download ROMs and emulation just to check games out before I physically purchased them. Yeah, that's another thing too. So the big thing is finding a goal in mind. Yeah, so we talked about price, we've talked about goals, and going on now a little bit more, my buddy Joe Bud here, let's check this out. This was a comment that I read earlier that I really wanted to get into. It's a good video. One video I would like to be made is, at times, do we place too much emphasis on nostalgia and childhood when deciding to collect? I feel like sometimes we are trying to recreate our childhood, but can never truly go back. So a big thank you to Joe Bud for that comment, because that's kind of a little bit to what we're talking about today too. A lot of times when trying to collect, my emphasis lately has been on childhood games. Now, is this technically me trying to recreate my childhood and trying to go back or anything like that? Not necessarily. But it is kind of nice for nostalgia reasons to revisit a game from my childhood that I did enjoy. A big one was a couple years ago. I played Jade Empire, which I personally was a huge fan of on the original Xbox, and I forgot how amazing that game is. Now, yes, did this probably take me back to my childhood? A little bit. And I guess really then my comment on this is, I think a lot of times that might be a good idea, but I don't think you should necessarily build a collection solely on that. I think a huge part of gaming in general, and especially just retro gaming, collecting is playing games. So yes, if you do not like any older games besides ones you've already played, or you don't have, like we talked about, money that you want to blow into games that you don't really need or you don't plan on playing, then that's maybe the best option, is to go for a little bit of nostalgia. And if anything, it's just to kind of start you off. That was kind of a huge thing for me when I first started collecting some retro games. Now, I guess I have to say this too. As of right now, I am not retro game collecting. A lot of you guys know, if you watch my past videos and everything that goes along with it, I personally sold my collection last year. What's up, guys? I just want to pause this video for a second and give a shout out to ED, aka Dom, my good buddy. Recently he had shown off his little Venom stand a while back, and I talked about how amazing it was. So he did me one better. He's such a great friend. We've been talking non-stop for a while now, and I told him I was thinking about getting one, and he said he would help me pay for it, and I said, no man, I got it, don't worry about it. Well, thanks, Dom. He helped. Yeah, big shout out to him. He just surprised me one day with a video and did a decent donation, and said, all he said was, get that freaking Venom stand, man, you deserve it. So thank you so much, Dom. I greatly appreciate it. So there it is, baby. Back to the video. I sold my game my retro game collection last year. A lot of what I still have is obviously what's behind me, and off to the side I have a private collection. So I went from about, anywhere from 300 to 400, 500 games or something, down to maybe only 100. And a lot of these were nostalgia games that I really loved, or games that I'm planning on playing again someday. So yeah, we've talked about that, the understanding what you want to do to begin with. And so we talked about price, we talked about goals in mind, and should you collect basically solely on nostalgia? I don't believe so, just for nostalgia reasons, but it is a good stepping stone to kind of finding games that you really do enjoy. Another thing that you need to understand is, yep, just physical in general, deterioration, just stuff breaking. Like I said earlier about the NES itself. Now, obviously you can find one from 60 to 80 bucks, but you're always going to have that blinking red light. Sometimes too, just from stuff going wrong with the consoles themselves. A huge one I can think of off the top of my head is a lot of the original Xboxes over time had these capacitors in there that would bust and leak, and therefore break the console itself. And besides that, cartridge-based games were, for the most part, to me anyways, pretty indestructible. You had to really do something bad to a cartridge game to ruin it. Now, that's about the exact opposite for disc-based games. Now, there's obviously the people that talk about PlayStation 1 and stuff having disc rot from being around too long, or in general, too, just scratches. A lot of the older CDs and disc-based stuff, I think, were so easily scratched, and then they would not play at all. I've actually, on my PS4 and stuff like that, I've had games that had some pretty good scratches on them, but they played no problem. But these older disc-based games, so that's one thing too you gotta think about when you're collecting and what you're going for. Obviously, you're gonna have to probably either know somebody that knows how to do maintenance, or be a little bit handy yourself. Now, for me, it was pretty easy. I just watched a lot of YouTube videos, purchased some tools, and just took the time and energy to actually learn how to do it. I'm pretty good at taking apart a regular NES and installing new 72 pins, and also bypassing the chip that they have on there so you could actually play certain games, and it kind of helps also too with the blinking red light. But now, okay, so we got goals, prices, maintenance, nostalgia, and lastly, I just kind of want to go into just my experiences itself. I enjoyed retro game collecting for the time it was. Now, it personally, after a while, did not become fun for me, and that's why I sold most of my collection and now only hold on to games that I actually play or plan on playing. If you have, I'm trying to think of the right words for this. If you go all in on something, or if you have a history of going all in on something and just doing it too much, you should probably reconsider collecting a little bit. I know that it's fun. It can be fun, but it also can be a little on the dark side. Now, we talked in the past about the dark side of collecting. We talked about the dark side of retro gaming, YouTube, and all that stuff like that. And like I said, obviously, I'm not a doctor, and I'm also a lot different. I'm different than a lot of people. But at one point, my game collecting swapped from fun game collecting to addiction and doing it for the game hunting for rushes, for dopamine, releases and stuff like that. And I collected for the wrong reasons. That's why I was saying it's a big thing that you guys should, when considering collecting, have goals and stuff in mind. Because with the way that the prices are, and as fun as hunting and stuff is, you will start to maybe at some point collect for the wrong reasons. So, like I said, I started doing it for the wrong reasons. I was influenced by YouTube. I thought that in order to have a great, amazing channel, I had to amass this huge retro game collection. I had to have these amazing game hunting videos or stories, and it really was just the wrong way to do it. And I just lost the fun over time. I think either that or I just matured, for me personally. And my collection nowadays, I believe, is a lot better than what I had before. Yes, I had a decent amount of games, but I didn't have good quality games that I enjoyed. I just had a bunch of filler titles, which is going to be a video topic coming up here pretty soon, maybe in April or something about that. Is all killers, no fillers, is a good topic that I like to talk about, where we just enjoy the games that we have, and not necessarily the value of the game itself, because that's another dark rabbit hole people can go down, is loving games for the value and not the gameplay itself. Yes, I got a super expensive game, I'm really cool, or whatever like that, and then just placing it on the shelf and not enjoying it after that. I just want to end the video on that, guys. I know this one's kind of all over the place. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. If somebody was interested in starting retro game collection, what is something that you believe that they should understand about it, and just give some tips for them. I'd love to read you guys' comments, so make sure you comment below, guys. As always, stay retro, my friends. We'll see you in the next video. I got a couple in the works, guys. We got some more. I'm getting back on my night shift, so we're going to be getting some videos popping out here pretty soon, but just a quick one for today. Happy Saturday if you're watching this on Saturday. If you're watching it later on, thank you so much for watching. Happy whatever day you're watching it on. So have a great one, guys. God bless.